You are now listening to Talking Transparency, the podcast where transparents talk transparently. Hosted by Cody Connor and Melissa Lutzen.
You want me to start? Do you want me to do our little intro?
Yeah, you want to do our little intro?
Yeah. Welcome to the Talking Transparency podcast with hosts Cody Connor and Melissa Lutzen.
Oh, yeah. Tonight we'll be talking with our guests tonight are going to be Kim and her son, Mick. Really happy to have them here. But we know them from the school board meetings.
We do know them from the school board meetings. I'll get a little background on us. I know Cody and I will just share. We are both parents of trans people. My kids are no longer in the school system, but I believe that it is my job as a parent to show up and make sure that the kids that are going through this with Virginia Beach schools, which we'll start talking about here shortly, are supported, feel supported, because many of them don't have parents that are showing up. And so we wanted to have this podcast so we can talk about, parents, talk with trans students, trans youth, trans adults, and just have conversation. How about you, Cody?
I mean, absolutely. I am also the father of a trans child in school, in middle school, so that's brutal.
Oof.
I also have two other children, one grown adult child, a couple grandchildren, and another younger son who also just started middle school. Yes, I got two grandchildren.
Cody's got me beat. I got one.
My grandson just turned 6, actually, not too long ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a young grandparent. I got the family record at 36 right now. So.
Yeah, I just became a Mimi because I am 47. However, I am still too young to be called like grandma or anything. So we're going with Mimi, and he's only 1 month old. He's so cute. Yes, and I'm just also proud parent that our son and his fiance, they chose a gender neutral name.
Oh, very cool.
So that, that option is open. So for them, and they were like, we're making sure that we pick a name that is gender neutral and open to, if they don't like the name that we picked for them, they can change it.
Exactly.
Regardless of anything. And I think that that's just such a beautiful movement away from, this our generation of this is your name and this is what you must go by. So.
No, just loving the person, not having to attach everything about them to what they're called. That's right. So that's a little bit about us.
Yeah.
Kim, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I am a parent. My name's Kim. I'm a parent, and I have one student still in the Virginia Beach school system, a trans son who goes to Kellum. And I do have 2 adult children as well who are college. One's in college, and one is trying to figure out what he wants to do, but that's okay.
Yep.
And I am a preschool teacher, and which keeps me busy.
Keeps you young.
It keeps me young, yes. I love my little 3-year-olds, but I feel that advocating for these kids, I've done a lot of volunteer work over the past 8 years that I've been working with high school, and working with the fine arts department especially, and there are a lot of students in the LGBTQ community, and not all of them have somebody to advocate for them and stand up for them and be there for them, and I think that's so important in their lives. And Mick knows how many kids I know more about some of these children in their lives than their own parents do, unfortunately. But I want to support them, and I want to be there to do whatever I can for not only my kid, but for all kids, and get things to change. Like you said, it's a generational thing. I don't think just because we've always done something some way doesn't mean it needs to continue. We need to give these kids love and respect and support.
That's correct.
I'm Mick. I'm a trans man, 16. I'm currently in the public school system in Virginia, that Callum specifically isn't the best right now, but we're trying.
Why is it not the best?
It's mostly because of the policies right now of the whole name thing. It sucks because our admin does say they're supportive, and part of me believes that. For the most part, I actually believe that. But a lot of the students in our school are not supportive, and there's constant things of, like, ripping down pride banners and hate criming a lot in the hallways, and, like, threatening violence against our FL department for having pride stuff up, and not just like, oh, I'm gonna beat you up, like, oh, I'm gonna kill you guys type deals. That's not too fun for us.
No.
Yeah, no. And your high school is in the southern part of the city, which, I think we all can agree that hate starts at home.
Yes.
And so, being in that southern part of the city, it's a more rural area, and we tend to see a little bit less tolerance in some of the more rural areas. And so that is a challenge for, that is always a challenge for some of the students from the LGBTQ community.
So outside of all of that, just a little bit, tell us about what you enjoy to do. What does Mick like to do? Who's Mick? Outside of all of this other stuff.
Wait, how long is this podcast?
Okay, I'll start with the normal things first. So I like to do.
Pause. It'll make it easier for editing if we just if I'm just if we hear it coming and we're like, pause.
Yeah, you pause anywhere there. And I think it's easier.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I like to do band. I do marching band, concert band, and jazz band. So
what instrument?
Marching band I play baritone. Concert band I play euphonium, and jazz band I play trombone. So it's 3 low brass instruments, mostly the same positions or notes rather.
Yeah.
I like to do drama club. I'm a thespian for our National Society for Thespians at Kellum.
I am also a lifetime member of the International Thespian Society.
That's really cool. But I mostly do the tech and behind the scenes stuff. I'm the technical supervisor this year, and want to try to do it next year. But I'm in studio and stuff to learn a little bit more about acting. I really like to do LARP and Dungeons and Dragons, which are both role-playing games. One of them is just way more violent. LARP.
Where do you see yourself?
You
got a big goal? You got a college you want to go to? Have you thought that far ahead?
I want to try to do. My current plan is to do 2.5 years at TCC just to get my basic maths and English done. And then I want to transfer to WVU. Then January, move up there with my family. So then I can get in-state and go to WVU.
Okay.
Yep. And go into music and special education because I want to start a special needs band.
Nice.
I think that would be really cool. But my one other hobby right now is just pigeons as a whole. I think they're really cool. I like to draw them and just research about them. I really want to pet one, but
that's number one item on the Christmas list.
Number one item is 2 pigeons because they get really lonely.
Get just one.
They get really lonely. Oh, they need a buddy.
Yeah.
And of course a cage and everything else for
cage.
them.
Right, caged pigeons. My latest fascination, because I have ADHD. Yep. So my special focus right now are prairie dogs. Wahoo! They are so cute. They do a little wahoo.
Yeah.
And they throw themselves back, and they're so cute.
They're adorable.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. I love talking about them. Yes, so I understand. I mean, the pigeons, and not totally into for me, but I totally
They're
understand.
super smart. There's so many different kinds of them.
Are they smart?
Yes, they are. Ooh.
Okay, all right.
I have so
Learn
much information about pigeons.
One of my girlfriends
smart.
used to work in town center, and she had a pigeon that she swore stalked her.
Mm-hmm.
Her pigeon.
Crow.
It stalked her from outside.
We have a pet crow that comes to our yard. We named him We named him Couscous.
He named
I have,
Yeah.
But no, a lot of people don't think pigeons are smart because of they're constantly around humans and they're eating anything they can.
Yeah.
But that's actually really sad because they're one of the first domesticated birds and overall animals besides canines and stuff.
Oh.
Because people would use them for navigation
Carrier pigeons.
carrier pigeons to send letters. They would use them in wars.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of stuff like that. So for many years, possibly hundreds of years, they kept most pigeons captivated. They would also use them for racing. They'd have traditions where they would race pigeons. They kept them captivated in cage, so they'd live around people, and the only ones, for a while, that would be in the wild are ones that escaped. But one day, they just suddenly said, okay, we don't need you, and just threw them all back onto the street, basically. So after years of being held in captivity, none of them know how to not live around humans or to build nests, and so that's why they're always around humans. So they lost, like,
their natural instincts, like, from being domesticated for so long.
All of their natural instincts, so they're always around humans, just trying to get as much food as they can, because they're not good, like, hunter-gatherers for themselves.
Yeah.
And they're not good at building
French fries
nests.
at the beach.
Yeah.
Exactly, they're not good at building nests. But they are very smart.
I am making a phone call to my friend after this podcast tonight and be like, listen, we need to talk about your pigeon friend.
And there's a thing. So Mick has really pitched this pigeon. I need pigeons for Christmas. And so we've kind of researched things. We're not 100%. You will probably not. I'm sorry. I don't know if Santa will be bringing pigeons in the stocking.
You bring me a cage, I will buy the pigeons.
But pigeons, they also have little things called pigeon pants. Where it's like little things with little suspenders that they wear so they don't poop all over your house. And they just wear them. I watched videos on this, and they just look like they're wearing little jumpsuits.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. That's amazing.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
They also have like a lot of religious history.
Transparency brought to you by the U.S. Air
They also have a lot of like religious history with not just like Christianity, but there's a lot of stuff talking about like Jerusalem and Jewish religions and Islamic religions, and a lot of like goddesses and gods, mostly goddesses actually, which I think is really cool.
Very cool.
Is centered around like pigeons.
Oh my gosh!
There's a lot of cultures that like do pigeon racing and do like pigeon music.
No, did you?
I had no idea.
The other cool thing that likely you didn't know, pigeon is the French translation of the English word dove. Pigeons and doves are the same thing. Doves are usually the ones that are smaller, more. A lot of people say the more prettier ones, but they're a lot more smaller. They don't have as like chubby necks and not as like long necks. And they don't have as fanned out tails. Their tails are usually more put together. And then pigeons are usually labeled as the bigger ones. But they're interchangeable.
No kidding. Wow. All right. Well, we just learned a whole lot about pigeons. And that's really amazing. I know. No, that's perfect. If you could meet a famous person, living or dead, who would it be?
That is a really hard question. I have no clue.
Myself in 20 years.
Yourself in 20 years.
He's going to be dead and famous.
Living and preferably living.
Yeah. For me, it's Oprah Winfrey.
Oh. Really?
If I could meet Oprah, I would love to meet Oprah. I just love her. She's amazing, and I just love her. Am I not talking loud enough? I'm sorry. I do. I love Oprah. How about you, Kim?
I've thought about this a lot over the years. I know that's a weird thing, but whenever this question comes up, I would honestly love to meet Elton John. He was such an integral. Music has always been such an integral part. Ooh.
Well, that's a different plane.
That was a different one. That's a little propeller plane.
Yeah, it's a little propeller guy, yeah.
But music was such a integral part of me growing up, and my mom always used to tell me, don't just listen to the music, hear the music. And Billy Joel and Elton John were like foundations in our household. Sure. I grew up on them. I have a Billy Joel quote on my arm. But Elton he has led such a fantastical life and has done so many things. He worked with the AIDS Quilt and Research Foundation, which I have a family member who passed away due to AIDS-related complications and actually worked on the AIDS quilt with him. So I just think he's had so many experiences. It'd be really cool.
That would be really cool.
He'd be amazing.
How about you, Cody?
I already said I'd want to meet me in 10 or 20 years.
Okay.
That's who I'd like to talk to. Or you know what? If I could, I'd like to talk to me 20 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, God. Right? If only Quantum Leap were real.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. That would be really great. I think we should talk a little bit about the Trans Family Dinner, which I have unfortunately not been able to attend yet.
Yeah,
because of scheduling conflicts.
You missed my turkeys.
Oh,
You
so
missed my turkeys.
I missed your turkeys.
They were very good from what I hear. I thought they were good too, but everybody else thought they were good. That's what counts.
Maybe we could do tacos next time.
We did a lot of cooking that day. There was...
Yes. You want to talk about Trans Family Dinners and share some events that we, in the local Virginia Beach area?
So Trans Family Dinner, that's an event that we put on at the Kalos Coalition. And, you know, really the whole point of it is to provide an opportunity, a safe space for the community, families in the community to get together and just break bread. And just be together, fellowshipping with each other, learning from each other, networking with each other, enjoying each other. You know, it's definitely one of those things I feel like in a lot of ways the community has been put off as unwholesome without really the acknowledgement of how so many members of our community have been alienated and isolated and ostracized from those perceived wholesome places and even traumatized
100%.
at places like the family dinner table. Mm-hmm. And so Trans Family Dinner is really about us taking that back. And not letting other people dictate whether or not we're wholesome.
I love that. Yeah.
And so it's a really important thing. We're also working on the Kalos Coalition, our trans story time. And we have a holiday card making workshop going on December 16th between 6 and 8 p.m. Is that going to be at the Creative Reuse Center at MacArthur Mall?
Okay.
And so we try to do a lot of little things and bigger things just to, you know, like I said, bring everybody together. There's a lot of people out there that feel like they're alone, and they're not. So we're trying to make ways for them to see that.
And there's so many people who have, you know, they don't have family that are supportive. They may have a family member, but there's also just not a lot in the community for especially your younger adults and young people to meet other trans people in the community. And then parents, right?
Exactly. As you said, like I feel that 18 to 25-year-old age group is desperately underserved. But also me as a trans parent, you know, when Mick came to us, there were very few resources for us, or very few families, or very few people I could talk to. So having this group and meeting other families and being able to talk to them about their experiences, that's so important. It is so important.
It is. And back in I believe it was 2012. I with two friends had started the PFLAG group for Virginia Beach. We ended up, one of the friends, the co-founders, had moved away. Some things, and I had one of my oldest go off to college. It was very challenging, and our attendance was very, you know, sometimes people would show up, sometimes we wouldn't show up. So we ended up transferring that over. So now it's Hampton Roads PFLAG instead of just Virginia Beach. But that was the whole purpose behind me starting that, was because my home was a safe space because we were supportive of, my oldest is trans, non-binary, masculine presenting, started hormone replacement therapy about a year ago, just for more masculine appearance, but still, they still consider themselves to be non-binary. And so, but in their teenage years, I mean, this was 15 years ago, right? And there wasn't the language. So my oldest was queer, identified lesbian, romantic wise, and then went to college. But through high school, we were the safe house where their friends were out in our home and being their authentic selves. But when they had to go home, they could not be themselves. And there was just no local, there was nothing, no local support, not just for queer kids, but also trans kids. And so that was one thing that for me, bringing that participation is key, and getting and finding more people. And now it's easier to find more people, right?
Exactly.
One more thing to put out there is another, other groups out there doing a lot of good things too. There's another event coming up December 8th. At 6:30, it's getting put on by the Minority Aid Support Services and the Thriving Trans Men of Color. Youth Holiday Reveal event, for youth ages 12 to 16. Parents welcome also. And that's going to be at the Minority Aid Support Services, Tidewater Drive in Norfolk, too.
Very cool.
So that's a big one. And so there's a lot of good things going on in the community, and it's really, getting it out there. It's actually, exciting to see, especially, what's going on with the school board. Bringing it back.
Bringing it back
into
to the
what we
school
were
board.
talking about before.
Yes.
What's school like for you now, Mick? What have you seen any changes from where it was before?
Honestly, for some of us, there hasn't been a lot of changes. I know for me specifically, there hasn't been too much that has changed. Obviously, the name stuff, but I'm lucky to have a supportive parent that was just okay, we can agree to that. But a lot of my friends don't have that, so a lot of them have had to revert back to their dead names or their legal names. And the nice thing is about our fine arts department is that a lot of the teachers are really supportive. So as soon as this stuff went out, they told as many people as they could. They told all their classes. They made sure everyone was trying to spread the word as best they can, because for this policy, which from when I went to the last school board meeting, the last one I went to was when they voted on it, this was not what they implemented. But once you say, I want to go by whatever name, they have 48 hours to contact your parents, which is not what it said in the school board meeting. They said you go to guidance and then they give you the choice.
That was one of my complaints to them, was that, and I think I even mentioned it to Kim when it got brought up, was that they had not outlined that in a way to protect the students. They'd done everything they could to put the students in danger, and at no point outlined any policies or procedures to actually protect those students that would be put in danger. That was one of my biggest...
Another thing that they changed, what was the other thing that we changed? I was like, that's not what we voted on. That was not in the final, because he was upset about it. When we talked to one of your teachers, they were telling you about it, and they were very upset about it.
Give me a second to think on that. I might remember. Okay. But, so, they had to be like, we can't, call you this anymore. Luckily, both of my main teachers, my band teacher and my drama teacher, they're both they don't have to know what happens down here. So they're off record. So in our app we use to contact, it has to be according to what it is in our synergy rosters. It doesn't have to be your full name. It can just be the first initial or just your last name. I'll know who you are.
Yeah.
But he's like, when we're after school, I could just be calling you that as an inside joke that we have, or some weird thing you did in band. It doesn't have to be actual stuff anymore. It could just be a joke we have. And
so you do have teachers that are trying to find ways
to find workaround ways.
Do you see this? You're talking about, you do have friends that have had to revert, are now being denied being called, being addressed the way they would prefer being called their name.
Yeah.
Have you seen, how does that affect them? Are they...
For some of the people I've seen, it's been kind of upsetting to them. I know some of my friends have started going by their last name in classes, because that's allowed. You don't have to talk to your teachers about that. It's a reasonable nickname. But for some of them, it's it's hard on them. Because one of my friends in particular, their parents are very homophobic, and they used to go by this different name in all their classes, because they would talk to their German teacher, and their German teacher started calling them it, and then this happened, so they had to go back and be like, hey, you can't call me this anymore. And it really sucked for them, and they're like, this is awful. Why is this? It's stupid. But one of the really dumb things about this policy that I sent some very long emails to people questioning them about it with some statistics I had, or facts I had. But our school books, yearbooks this year, this has been a thing for years in the past. But the name in Synergy, if your name is approved, it goes into a special slot with preferred names or nicknames on a list, and then that's what they call you. For all the school stuff, that's what they call you. But it's funny because in the yearbook, you still have to be dead named, which is why?
So that gets to be your memory.
Yeah, that gets
Yes.
to be my memory. And,
So, yeah.
and it's not even for, like for me, I have to be dead name. But my friend, they go just by, like, a 2-letter shortened name of their name. So, like, if someone's name was John, like, they go by John, but their full name is Jonathan, they would have to be Jonathan in the yearbook, even though that's not who they are.
So AJ's can't be AJ. AJ's Anthony James in the
Yes.
yearbook.
Yeah,
Exactly.
or, like...
Yeah, so apparently, because we were talking about this the other, and Mick was discussing it with one of the yearbook people.
Yeah.
Something with synergy, and they're sending the list to
So-
Jostens.
As far as I know, Justin's is the nationwide company.
Yeah, they do
Provider
all the
for-
yearbooks
yeah.
I've
Yeah.
ever seen.
Yeah, yeah.
They send
What a
the-
monopoly, right?
No
They
kidding,
send
yeah.
the synergy list with the name and preferred nickname to Jostens, and then Jostens makes the text. And I understand they don't know, like, everyone that's under the umbrella, but the thing that, like, is like, well, this is kind of dumb, is that you can make a custom tag, because it'll go in the system, and then you can just, like, search up that name, and then you'll have it, and you can just click on it for each photo. If you want to make a custom tag, you have to do it for every single photo, every single time. You can't just do it and then save it in the system.
Gotcha.
Which could take a while, but at the same time, this is like your class. Like, they take yearbook as a class. So this is like a class. You can get like a grade for this assignment. And it's like, what's the...
So, like
And-
we have friends who have longer names. Who it would be like me. I go by Kim.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Kimberly is not that big of a dramatic thing, but my yearbook would say Kimberly. We have a Margaret. If she goes by Maggie,
Mm-hmm.
it's Margaret. And I was talking to Mick. I'm like, that's ridiculous. And they're not allowing them to change it.
No.
So I'm like, this is not a legal document. This is not our parents' thing. This is your high school memories. And when I
This
look
is your
back,
memory that you're buying.
that you're buying.
You're
Yeah,
paying
you're
for this
paying-
memory.
You're paying a lot of money
Yes,
for,
it's-
and it's all computerized, and Jostens is not giving them that option. So when Mick was tagged,
but yeah,
they had to go to him and find him and be like, look, we can't use Mick.
my friend, yeah, they had to figure out how to spell my dead name.
Yeah.
But
And
Yeah.
Jostens doesn't. Jostens is.
I emailed them. They haven't responded yet. But
Very, very long. This is I was impressed.
598 word email.
Yeah, like,
Nice.
But, so I emailed my principal asking why, and then I emailed them with like things I found from their terms of service, where it's like
Yeah.
I do a lot of research when I'm
Yeah.
going to email
I
someone.
love
I want to
this.
make sure I'm right.
amazing. Yeah.
But I found things that were like, this app won't be used to like spread, hate, foster exclusivity, bullying, stuff like that.
Like the non-discrimination.
Yeah, no discrimination. You can't discriminate based off of age, sex, nationality,
Okay, good.
like race, sexual orientation. You can't infringe on the rights to someone's privacy or publicity. You can't violate their rights to like confidentiality. I feel like there was one more, and you can't use this app to impersonate or misrepresent. Which, by putting the dead names in the book, it's doing all those. It's going to lead to bullying and to hate. Oh, and it can't be likely to embarrass, annoy, alarm, or cause anxiety to any of the people that would be seeing this. So, by having the
You
dead
did this
names,
research.
by
Yeah.
having the dead names in there, you are going to have these kids be targeted more by the people in our school that aren't supportive, which is a good portion of our school. It's going to bully them. It's going to outcast them. It's going to spread hate to them. It's going to make them more alarmed and more anxious because they're like, well, now everyone in this school has access to this yearbook. They all have access to who I am and what my dead name is. They now have ammo against me, basically. It's misrepresenting who we are. Having my dead name in there, not Mick in there, is misrepresenting who I am. And it's violating and infringing on our rights to privacy of our dead name. It's because most, if not all, trans people don't want their dead name publicly shared to the world. I could say with near 100% confidence that no trans person wants their name publicly shared to the world.
Right.
And under their governing law and venues, it says that all of the terms will be governed in accordance to the state of Minnesota laws. And I was looking at that, and it says that under the school board stuff, that legal names will be used by default, except for cases where their preferred name is stated on a list of some kind. Our list would be our nickname slots that we provide them.
That's right.
The only two things I could find that would contradict that, because when I emailed them, I was like, if you can't change it, I at least want a reason why, because I want to know. I was emailing my principal out of pure curiosity why, and I was emailing Justin's out of are you guys aware of this? But with the misrepresenting thing, someone could claim that it's misrepresenting legal documents or something, but right above the preferred name thing on Minnesota's state government website is they have the right to deny any preferred name that is inappropriate, which is included but not limited to things that are
probably vulgar,
vulgarity, vulgarity, to avoid
for sure
legal crimes, but also says anything that goes against other policy systems, and that could be claimed as our school's policy, or our model policies. At the same time, Jostens isn't VBCBS owned, so they don't have to listen.
That is correct.
To our laws. So if by chance a principal or someone that was sending this were to send the name and accidentally include that nickname in there, because just how the screenshot works, Justin can't get in trouble for putting that nickname there. I'm just saying.
I like that. You've got that, if it just so happens, delete.
If it just so happens, and that's what I'm saying. It's
I'll be super curious to see. I know
we need to follow
send us an update on how the Johnsons
No, I've been
things
checking
go.
the email literally every day.
Well, I got a text at work yesterday that was my phone was on fire. I could feel how angry he was.
I want to circle through just a couple things before we kind of end the interview.
Yeah.
Part of our show or whatnot. You mentioned several times the students in your school.
Yeah.
And the unsupportive students in your school. I mean, this is something I'm really interested in. As a parent of a child in schools, my daughter is getting ready to enter high school next year. She's in 8th grade this year. And my daughter is both trans and has a physical disability. And so, she talks to me so much, but I do know that school is uncomfortable for her. Mm-hmm. And from what I get from her is, not a lot of overt people going out of their way to physically or verbally abuse her so much as the sideways, the giggles, the laughs, the isolation and ignoring. When they do talk to her, they talk to her like she's less than. That's kind of what I get a lot of. But I want to know your experience, especially being in high school.
There's a little bit less of the talking down to, because I think with how much that the queer community in Kellam has done to protest for gay people, and the fact that most of us are in LARP and they've seen most of us carry around giant foam weapons and have seen us fight.
The giant battle axe helps.
Have seen us fight. I think some of them are too scared to actually follow through with what they're saying. But in high school, some of my experiences for me and some of my friends have told me this, their experiences is sometimes being called slurs in the hall as you're walking by, or the snickering. But what a lot of the boys will do, I notice, especially the more southern kids,
there's
rural life.
There's a group of boys. They have a name for them. Their group. That is relative to the neighborhood that they live in. The area, the rural area that they live in.
I don't think I can say that.
I don't know.
Here.
Do I call them out? And,
I don't.
They
call
themselves
the Pungo Boys,
they call
or the
themselves the Pungo
Rednecks.
Boys.
Oh no,
We call them Pungo Boys.
Heard of the Pungo
Yeah.
Boys?
Call them all the Pungo Boys, and some of them have a truck gang where they all sit in the parking lot with all their squatted trucks or their lifted trucks, and they just sit there.
Their Confederate flags.
Yeah, they're Confederate flags. But what I've noticed a lot of them do is they'll like go and they'll go like, yo, what's up? And they'll like dap us up and then they'll like laugh and they'll walk away and laugh and think they did something.
Yeah.
But something else they used to do, and we almost had to shut down FL because of this, they would come down the hallway with their phones and try to record us, and we'll like be laughing all the way down. So they were like, oh, we have to shut down F Hall, and the teachers took it into their own hands and said, no, we're just going to stand there. And so they stand guard at the front of the hallway. When lunch starts, they close all other doors to get into that hall besides that main door, because the stage and stuff leads to the other parts of the school, so you can get on stage. But there's a few kids that would like try to get on stage and like destroy our sets for theater.
They threatened to destroy the whole theater set.
Yeah, for our
it was like a big
for our
thing.
fall show. But they would come down and they would be like recording and they'd be like snickering and stuff. So, and those kids got suspended. We like took care of that immediately.
So there was
Okay,
at
so
least
there
some
were-
that's good.
Right.
There's
Yeah,
some
because
disciplinary.
and it got to the point where we're like, any little thing they do, we're just going to report it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We have the time, we have what they said, but
Zero tolerance.
I started
Exactly,
sitting
that's what
down
it was.
the F hall more because of that, because I have a lot of, because one of my very close friends, they're a sophomore, isn't a part of the LGBTQ community at all. As far as I know, at least. As far as they told me. They sit right at the front of F hall, so right where those doors are.
And FL is just to clarify, it's the Fine Arts Hall.
It's the fine art. Yeah, I'd say F hall.
Yeah, we keep saying that. It's where
the theater.
all the band kids and the
all the
theater
band
and the court,
kids,
that's where
theater
they
course.
can
Yeah,
draw,
it's fine arts F hall.
Yeah.
Someone that sits right at the front. Multiple times, as these kids would walk down, called her the F slur. And there was like a mental breakdown because of it. She's like, I don't understand, like, I'm just trying to eat my lunch. So I started sitting down there. I was like, okay, because when some of this happened, like, when the name things were happening, my dad was like, if it gets, like, the name thing gets too much, I'm willing to homeschool you. So, in my head, I immediately was like, well, my dad's willing to homeschool me. So if I get expelled for beating up a transphobe at my school, then I think I'm okay. Not saying I'm doing that. But I started sitting down there, and when Pungo kids, or like the rednecky kids, would walk down the hall, I would follow them and I would see what they were doing, and I would be like, hey, did they say anything to you? And I would make sure it's okay. And then, because our band teacher, one day when I was sitting down there, noticed the kids, and the kid tried to take out his phone, and he stepped in front of them, and like was like, what you doing? And they pushed past the band teacher, which, bad mistake. He like changed his whole demeanor. He was just like
mad
death glare.
Yeah.
But he walked down and he was like, what is that? And so the other teacher was out, he's like, you stay there for a second. So I started walking after them. I was like, I want to know what they're doing. Because if they don't have their phone out there, they might go say something to the kids at the end. So they went to the end, and as they were walking back, they were trying to record. Because I saw him pull out his phone, and I saw the recording, like, screen on his phone. I was like, dude, you're such an asshole. Like, what do you think you're getting out of this?
Yeah.
Right.
But
I mean, it's terrorizing. It's
It is.
bullying. I mean, it's the fact that you have to go and, you know, you're concerned with your friends that are just trying to eat.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, you know.
Just the idea that you have to be that aware, that concerned in a place where you should just be focused on learning.
And that should be like a safe place for them to just hang out and be with each other and be friends. And
Right.
they're having to worry about these kids coming down and, tearing their stuff apart.
It's also, like, we established a walkout. Like, a whole bunch of schools
Yep.
established a walkout. Sorry. But we got, like, a huge outcome of people. Like, we got a couple hundred people to do the walkout. And a few of them it's really funny, there was a very diverse group. It was obviously, like, most of our fine arts department, including some of the teachers. It was, just a few kids that wanted to get out of class. Like, there was a few, like, white girls there. There was, like, the popular girls, that were just like, I'm like, I don't even know what this is for. I just want to be out of class. But then, and when we told them, they're like, oh, no, that's super stupid. I'm glad I came out here. But there was this group of boys with an American flag, and they came out here to, like, protest. So, we're like...
Protest the protest.
Protest the protest. And we're like, realize they're just helping our numbers, right? Like, by seeing all these numbers that, like, admin's going to see, they're going to see that the school's really supportive. They're not going to see, oh, these group of kids were protesting it. No, they're going to see those numbers. But that American flag, and they're, like, hanging up, and they're, like, chanting it at us. So we just started chanting back at them, because they're like, USA, USA. So we just started saying America Love Trans Kids. And they, like, shut up real fast. It was really funny.
Yeah.
But there's, like, a lot of stuff like that of just, like, the laughing down the hall. And as they're walking, like, by, they just go, yo, what the fuck? And, like, stuff like that. So it's not, like, it's just much of harassment.
But constant. And
it's constant, and it gets kind of annoying. I would say, like,
and that's what I get from my daughter too. That it's annoying. It wears. Some days she just runs out of energy for it. There's days that I have to go pick her up from school because she just can't that day, which I get. Before we wrap this up, thank you so much, Mick. You not only have we learned so much about pigeons and Jocelyn's and all of that, but we've learned a lot about you. I'm incredibly grateful for that. Before we end our guest section here, Kim.
Yes.
Tell me. I mean, I know you're super proud.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Mick. Mick is obviously very smart, very motivated, very caring person. Mm-hmm. What's it like for you as a parent, Mick, going through this?
Well, it's been interesting. So, Mick. When Mick came out to us, I've always been supportive. I was raised that way. My mom raised me that way. I've had multiple uncles, aunts, and everything. So I've always been very supportive. And I still remember asking Mick when they first came out as lesbian, hey, why do you want to go to this event? Why do you want to do that? I was like, do you think it's because you associate with this? And they're like, yeah. And so it was kind of a mutual, we talked about it. And, but I still remember the day they came to me and let me know they were trans. I just started going through cancer treatment, and we were going to do family photos. And they had been out, apparently, I found out later, they'd been out to friends and that at school. But they said, oh yeah, you're going to have pictures with all three of your sons today. And it took me a second to process because I was kind of foggy. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, cool. And he cried and I cried and we hugged and then we went and had pictures. So, and it was a lot of, I mean, I'm so proud of them. It was a lot though. It was a lot to take in because I didn't know as much about the trans community. I knew a lot about LGBTQ, but the T part of it, I wasn't as familiar with. I knew trans actors. I knew trans, people I follow on TikTok. But I wasn't familiar with it and with my own child and what do you do and how do you do this and what are the steps and, is this really what you feel? And, so it was a big thing. We went through a lot. There was a lot. There's a lot of things that happened that year. Mm-hmm. I hate to say, I don't want this to come out sounding wrong. You do kind of go, okay, this was my kid, and like, what is, you do go through this weird, emotional thing myself, but I try to make it not about me because it wasn't about me. No, it has nothing, the way they feel and who they are has nothing to do with me. Yeah. And I put a big post up after we had some stuff happen. I put a big post up because I had lots of people who were, what? And I said, basically, look, this is my kid. Mm-hmm. This is the same kid that yesterday you said was a great kid and advocates for everybody and loves everybody and would do anything for everybody. All they want you to do is call him a different name now. That's all they want. Mm-hmm. They want you to call him and Mick. Mm-hmm. And if you can't deal with that, then kick rocks. That's right. And I put that on there and I was like, this kid, I think this kid has a bigger heart than anybody I've ever met. The work he does, you've heard, he's protective of everybody. Special needs kids, he's going to do something great, and just researches everything very in depth, is loving, is caring, is focused, is so smart. And I can't help but support him because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's here. It's what's here. Mm-hmm. And
I think that gets missed so much in the conversation a lot of people. I think it's missed by a lot of parents.
Yes.
Cause for me, I didn't really, and I've heard about it and and everybody's feelings are valid. We all process
Yes.
through our own experience. When my child came out to me, I didn't have that hit. I didn't feel like I lost anything.
No.
I just felt like I learned more about who my child was. I got more of my child, not
Yes.
less.
Yes.
And I think that gets missed a lot. These are all still the same people, the same people they were before.
Exactly.
You just now are getting more of them.
Exactly.
You're
seeing the full package.
That's a beautiful
Right.
thing.
I think that's what it is.
That's an amazing
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
And you see it in them
Exactly.
as they get to be themselves more.
Oh,
It
seen
really is.
Yeah. Since in the past year, his dad and I were talking about this the other way. Just the growth we've seen and like the happiness and the just everything.
Yes.
You okay? You look like you want to say something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, just everything it's just amazing seeing them become who they truly are.
Right.
And they've always just been this, like I always used to joke when they were little, like, oh yeah, out of all three of them, one of them's going to be gay. Like that was our
That's
joke.
the same thing we had, right?
And
Kids is always
and we always used to joke it was going to be
Right.
Connor because he was always an immaculate dresser when he was little and had these long eyelashes,
Right.
and that was it was going to be Connor, and it was Mick, and so it's one of them.
Well, and as a parent,
Yeah.
Kim, you like one thing that you touched on that I don't want to skip
Oh, no.
over
Oh, no.
with you is something that I shared. And I think it comes from a place of harm. So we not wanting to do harm, I should say. For me, it wasn't like Cody said, it wasn't necessarily a loss. It was
No, exactly.
I don't want to continue to do harm. I need to use correct pronouns.
Yes.
We need to have the conversation. And for me, it I think I talked to you about this before, is when I would accidentally misgender, right?
Yes.
Use the wrong pronouns.
Yes.
And it was whenever I was dipping into my memory bank, because as mothers, there's a shared experience that even our children do not share with their fathers. No offense, Cody,
Yep.
but there is something
different bond.
it's just a different
Yep.
bond, and there's while this child is in the womb, we put so much stress on naming them,
Yes.
right? Because names are so
Yes.
because there's just so much on parents and mothers. What are you going to name the child? How the gendering, all of the gender
Yes.
clothes that we put our babies in,
yes.
And so when I didn't want to continue to do harm,
Exactly.
so I had to be very conscious of where they were
Mhm.
and how they wanted me to communicate with them. And imagine all of my friends as a parent of, through their teenage years being a lesbian, and then all of my friends when my oldest marries a man. And that was a whole other conversation
And then
that
they're like, what?
that I
Mhm.
had to have with people to say, love is love.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there was so much that made sense to me. I don't know about for you, but when I
Yes.
start as a parent going back to their toddler years to their, like when they were 6 or 7
Yes.
or 8, and then as a teenager, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've never, at 29, my oldest is 29,
Mhm.
has been on testosterone for about a year. And when we went to visit over the summer, they work for University for Theater, for
cool.
University of Wisconsin. Yes.
Wow.
And so I just have never seen them in their entire life feel so at peace with who they are.
That's awesome. That is amazing.
And that brings me so much joy as a parent,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And I feel like every parent should want that for their child.
Exactly.
And so that's all I wanted to.
Oh no,
insert.
I 100% agree, and I think that's what it is, and I think that's why I get so protective of not only Mick, because I'm fiercely protective, and I did have that trouble. I think part of it was, like you said, that memory bank and getting used to it after 15 years of saying she,
Yep,
he.
yeah.
And I also was a little foggy from chemo. I was going through
Of
chemo,
course,
so
yep,
all that.
I
It was
know,
it was an interesting year.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
and I am unprotected. Mick's helping me with a lot of friends.
But in such a huge way, and I've seen this in my life too, it is such an opportunity for us as parents to grow and
Yes.
unlearn.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many things that as you
Yep.
begin to go through these thought processes that you're like, wow,
Mhm.
wow, I didn't know that about myself. There's some some places to
Deprogramming.
grow here.
And you also learn a lot about your family.
Oh, yes.
People
yes,
who-
you do.
Because I've had I had quite a few who are no longer, and I know it's just Facebook, but when you have family members unfriend you after that, you go, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Parents,
Yeah. My kids don't speak to their grandparents.
Well, we had quite the conversation at a funeral we went to. At my brother-in-law's funeral, the grandmother, or not the grandmother, I'm sorry, the aunt, the great aunt came up to me and whispered into my ear that she doesn't really understand what Mick is going through, but it's okay because I know what she is. Because I was there. I know what she has.
The other thing.
And I turned to her and I was like, first of all, no.
Like, no,
I was like, I don't care. I said, the only thing I care about.
Mean-spirited.
It was very mean-spirited. I was like, I don't care how you feel. That is Mick. You will refer to him as him. And then, so I got a little loud and I was like, you don't need to worry about what's in his pants. I said, and I started naming people. I'm like, I don't look at, we have a relative named Cody. So it's like, I don't look at Cody and say, Cody with a penis, Becca with a vagina. And I start going like that. And she looked at me. I was like, so you will call him Mick. And that is the end of it.
Oh,
so
yes.
I got very loud at the funeral.
That's a big problem. You get this whole, you're sexualizing children.
Yes.
No, that's actually, we're doing not that.
We're not that.
We're not.
Because we're taking that out of the equation.
It's the other group of people that is so very much obsessed with what is inside everybody's pants.
I know.
And we are actually not concerned with that at all. We are obsessed with
we're this.
What is in your heart and mind and who are you?
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I support trans people. I just want to see everyone's penis, you guys. I just can't I'm sorry. I can't help it.
I just can't help it. I just want
we make some really inappropriate jokes sometimes in the car, and Mick will make some. It has friends in the back seat, and they'll say stuff.
No, I
or Mick will say stuff, and the
so,
friends are like, "Your mom and dad are in the car."
No, I know.
And we're like, "Dude, this is the DeWitt house is a safe space. You can say pretty much whatever you want."
Pretty much, yeah.
As a joke, my sophomore year, during summer camp of marching band, started a rap career called M. Dickey Raps.
We are not going to rap on this podcast.
I was not rap on the podcast, but
send us your demo.
I will say,
promoting trans artists on this podcast.
I only have one good song out right now. I have 3 songs in total, one good song, and then I'm working on an album.
I love it.
It's called Happy Times, and the album is a picture of a gay flag, but
we're gonna have to have you back.
I know,
so we can hear Happy Times.
We can hear some Happy Times.
There's a lot of. It's a very. There's a lot of very
It's
gay.
Interesting. It's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah,
it's kind of a parody type of
satire,
but a dirty parody.
Dirty.
It's very dirty.
But we started that. And the first one is called Happy Times. And the third line is, I'm so gay and nobody knows. And that was said as a joke. We're like, no, we're keeping that. Because it's good.
Because it's good. That's right.
Because it flows nicely.
It does.
But it's a very, it's an interesting thing. But I say that I will rap. I'll be like, hey, Mom, I just made a new rap. You want to hear it? In the car with my friends. And they'll be like, dude, you can't sing this.
You can't
Mom
sing
is
this.
in the car.
Mom.
And I was like, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's
called sex-positive parenting is what we call that. And
okay,
I also had a sex-positive parenting household as well. So we spoke about penises and vaginas all the time.
It's worse than that.
You should be able to be honest and authentic with your parents.
Yes,
the whole concept that you can't, I don't know where that came from. But it is very much just made relationships between parents and children worse throughout the years, not better. It's why it's that whole concept. Oh, your kids are going to hide stuff from you. Yeah. No, your kids might want to hide stuff from you, but that's because they don't feel safe enough to be themselves.
Type A people pleaser right here.
Yeah.
So yes, very hide who I was because I only want you to see the perfect little.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
first child.
Very generational for us too.
Well, then Mick is now showing you very much how it is to take ownership of who you are and go after it.
He really has. He has taught me a lot. I've really, in the past few years, come to say, you know what? I don't care if you like me or not. This is me, and this is what we're doing. And I think I've come a long way too, haven't I?
Well, because way more important than whether or not. And here's the truth. it doesn't matter if somebody else loves you if you're not being you.
Exactly.
You have to love yourself and be yourself.
Exactly.
Because if somebody loves you and you're not being you, they're not loving you. They're loving whoever you're presenting, but they're not loving you. It's not authentic. And so if you ever really want other people to love you, you have to love yourself first and be yourself first. That's how you find that authenticity.
Yep. And I think letting go of that generational trauma has made a big impact and has really done it. So
this kind of goes into this, but also is backtracking to the parent thing. But a lot of things I've heard the adults say that are against this is one about detransitioning, but the thing is they always talk about this testosterone and stuff, how they're just gonna start getting hormone therapy next, but I don't think any of them realize how hard it actually is to get on testosterone and to get top surgery.
Even
for my mom, from what I know, she had top surgery for her breast cancer. It still took a decent amount of work. She couldn't just go in and get it. She had to get doctor's notice for, especially under minors trying to get this stuff. You need multiple psychiatrists. You need multiple doctor recommendations. You need to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria, and then you get put on a wait list, and they say, okay.
The cost of it is
prohibitive.
Yep. By the time this wait list, you're to the top 3. It's been 3 years, so they're oh, we have to reevaluate you, and you get put on another wait list for another 5 years.
Yeah,
and
it's not something that happens over the weekend. After you come
can't
out,
go. It's not on a whim.
They say, hey,
I want to start hormones.
They have pushed this as propaganda because. My child is 29 years old. Their journey has been long.
Yes.
Right? And they only started hormone therapy a year ago. And part of that was access, but part of that was their journey. Yes. Their personal journey.
Yep.
And finding that acceptance within themselves, and then being able to feel that they could show themselves to the world exactly as who they are, and not just me as a parent, but themselves. And so, it's not. I get so frustrated when I hear these right wing, propagandists out here that are just trying to rage farm and get people spun up when it's just not as easy.
We're doing top surgery at the schools. No, we're not.
No.
I can't even get a Tylenol for him when he has a headache. We are not doing it in shop class.
Thank you.
Get the soldering iron out. Hold on, stand still.
The vast, for the very few people that do actually get surgeries, because it's not.
That's correct.
It's not just everybody gets surgery.
Exactly.
It's for the very people that do actually get surgeries. So the overall general regret rate for surgery, somewhere between 14 and 16%.
Yeah.
That's for your knee surgeries. That's for
anything.
That's for anything.
Yeah.
The overall regret rate for gender affirming surgeries is between 1 and 4%.
Yeah, so it's a low percentage. Yeah.
A lot of the adults as well are well, what if they want to detransition and go by their old name again? Well, you just call them their old name.
Call them their old name.
They talk about.
And it's not about, people want to define things.
Yeah.
This is who this person is. They can't change because that makes me feel safe that they're in their box and I know exactly where they're supposed to fit in my life.
But they also say, I don't want labels.
Yes, but they also, it's about giving your child or anybody for that matter in your life the space to not just be who they are, but continue to become whoever they are going to be as well.
And you just mentioned something too. You said when they're in their box, it makes the other person feel safe. I think also trying to accept who all these other different people are. I think it sometimes with some people brings out other feelings in them that they are not comfortable with. And they don't know how to handle the process,
exactly right.
Whether about themselves or about the other person, and they don't know how to process that, so it's easier to ignore it or to make it wrong.
Hate
and hate.
Some people are scared to find themselves because they've been taught their whole life to dislike themselves, that they're not worthy enough, that they're not worthy of love. They're just going to be lucky that somebody forgives them enough and loves them anyway. And so they should always feel terrible about themselves. And if they don't feel terrible about themselves, they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so to be put in a place where you then have to discover yourself and maybe decide to love yourself when you've been taught that doing that your whole life is wrong, it's very difficult for a lot of people.
Well, because so many parents tell you, they want to tell you who you are and who you're going to be. And
you're going to do this after school activity, and no, you're going to sign up for this class because this is.
And you're going to go to this college, and you're going to do this job, and you are this.
And you have to get this grade, and only this grade. If it's 1% lower, then you're getting kicked out of the house.
Yes.
Wow.
And it's like.
We could continue
I
this
know,
forever.
I could talk forever.
Forever.
I know.
But we are going to go ahead and wrap up this part of our show.
Cool.
If you guys want to stay with us after this, we're going to go into some news and discuss some news hot topics and everything going around.
Perfect. Well, I'm very interested in sharing some thoughts on this high school principal. So there's a Florida high school principal who was reassigned with other officials in the school for allegedly allowing a trans student to play on girls' volleyball team. And so they did it. There was just a short story that came out, and they actually reassigned into admin positions for right now. The Monarch High School in the city in Florida, the principal, the assistant principal, the athletic director, and the volleyball coach were moved to, quote, non-school sites. So, the probe was launched to determine whether a biological male who's transitioning or has transitioned into a female was allowed to play for the team. And so they have been suspended because that is against the law in Florida.
There was actually another article about how several hundred students at that school walked out in protest.
Yes, they did. So apparently they staged a walkout.
Yeah, they staged a walkout after their administrators were reassigned.
There's no right way to do the wrong thing. That's right. Yeah, Broward County. Yes, go figure. So they did. So the students actually did step up. I was hoping in the article that it would talk about how many, but it didn't give us how many students. But it looked like a good group according to the picture.
The article that I read did say there was a couple hundred, but I don't remember the exact.
Okay.
It was a lot.
It looks like a good amount. But Governor DeSantis, DeSatan.
Ron DeSantis?
Yeah, Meatball Ron. He, if Donald Timothy Trump did anything, he gave us Meatball Ron for a little coined. I really like Meatball Ron. I like calling him that. He's a meatball. He signed the state's transgender ban in 2021. And that was something that was one of his first major things that he went into. Then students are required to submit their original birth certificates. I'm in a group with this kind of on the same line, but I'm in a group chat with some other parents. And yesterday, somebody posted on the athletic, I guess the physical form or the athletics form for the school, that you have to give if you're a female student, you have to give your menstruation. That if you have started menstruating. And apparently this is common in sports. It's asked.
That's anybody's business.
That's what I'm saying. From what my understanding is that athletics, they require that because not only is it have you menstruated, but like how many times in the last 12 months have you menstruated? And I guess it has to do with maybe physiology from a sports perspective because
when you work out too much and weight loss, you do stop menstruating.
You do stop menstruating. That might be part of it. So that is part of it. But however, I still find that this is just, I just don't understand it. So very annoyed by that actually when I found that out. So yes, that is one news story out of Florida. But in other great news. Did anybody see the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
I read about it.
I saw a couple things. I didn't see the whole parade.
I do not normally watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, but Cher was performing. Yeah. If Cher's performing, y'all better watch that Thanksgiving parade. And she was amazing. But apparently our MAGA moms, all of our Q moms, yeah, they decided they want to boycott Macy's. So now their latest
Where are they gonna shop
boycott. Right? Yeah, so their latest boycott, I mean, literally, where are they going to shop? They boycotted Target.
Yeah.
I mean, all the bougie places,
Yeah.
they're totally...
InfoWars store.
Yes, InfoWars store. Oh, yeah, but that's pretty much just like vitamins and things like...
Hobby Lobby?
There you go, Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby,
They're
yep.
just going to start making their own
Yep,
clothes again.
yep.
Yeah.
And that is... Yep. And that is because there were... Are y'all ready for it? There were like two participants in the Macy's Day Parade that were non-binary and transgender.
Yep.
Scandalous. Okay, do y'all want... Okay, story related to the things. I don't know why I have all these stories now about the Thanksgiving Day Parade. However, I found out that my brother-in-law was a homophobe when he was upset about Kinky Boots being in, if y'all remember, about 8 or 9 years ago, Kinky Boots was in the Thanksgiving Day Parade, the Broadway production, and he made some kind of comment, and my husband and I, at the time, we had kids still at home at this time, and our son is gay, and so I was like, this is your brother, which, of course, we don't talk to that brother now. But the Thanksgiving Day Parade brought out the Kinky Boots, and he was not happy. He was like, oh, look at what they're showing. These children are seeing this. I'm like, children are seeing what? People who are performing in a Broadway musical because you don't like the subject matter. It's a performance. Same with this. These were, by the way, I saw the Anne Juliet, also the performance of the Broadway production Anne Juliet. They did a song in the Macy's Day Parade, and they both feature, Anne Juliet and Shucked, both feature transgender and non-binary performers in major roles. So the Alliance Defending Freedom is like, Macy's inclusion of a non-binary transgender character in a parade is just another example of an ideological war that's being waged on families. And customers are saying they've had enough, but it seems that corporate brands that were once trusted just still aren't getting the message. Shame on Macy's for promoting and sponsoring this type of entertainment. 1 million moms petition reads. So they've got a petition going, but that's my QO mom's little whiny voice.
It's so funny to me because you get that a lot. I get that on my TikToks a lot. You see that you're forcing your beliefs on us. No, asking to be acknowledged and respected as a part of society is not forcing a way of life on you. We do that for everybody else.
Well, literally, I was just about to say, we force heterosexuality on our children. We force that on them. What happens when you see a little kid or make a joke about, oh, Timmy, do you have a little girlfriend in kindergarten?
Yes.
Oh, Betty, do you have a boyfriend?
Oh, look, they're little boyfriends.
They're going to get married. I mean, we literally push heterosexuality on because that is the default. We live in a heteronormative world. And that is the default. So I push back to say that what we're doing is we're actually pushing a heterosexual agenda in our daily lives. That's what I just want to push back on. We're doing that. And they say, I don't agree with the LGBTQ agenda you're pushing on families during your Thanksgiving Day Parade. My family and I will not watch this indoctrination. This is just insanity.
I just have a question too. If anybody could send me the link, where do I find the agenda? Because I'd like to know what we're doing. Yep. And so if anybody could get a copy of that for me, I'd appreciate it.
One whiteboard.
Would
One
love-
whiteboard.
Well, and, on that topic, it brings up something because I was looking in the news, and there was an article. Did you read the article about there is no trans genocide?
Oh yes, there is there is no trans genocide. Yeah,
there is no trans that. Where was that article? That was in the.
It was a.
I have.
No, hold on, we have it right.
National Review.
National
the
Review.
National
Yeah.
Review is where.
Yep.
Where it was, and it is so. I'm like, I read the article. You read the article, and basically, what it does is first you take a lot of, very small pieces of information.
Yeah.
We just had the Trans Day of Remembrance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And part of that was 26 trans people that had been murdered.
Yeah.
And that's not a giant number. The article takes the time to point out that that's not, a giant.
One is too many, though.
Yes, one is too many. People should not kill people. Yes, and that's
Yes.
that's the other part of it is they take this one kind of not really accurate number, and they don't take everything else into account, and they say because this number is small, it's not transgenocide because that would mean that all these other numbers are bigger than that would have to be genocide too. So there's really,
It's a similar argument
so
going
there's
on.
real no such thing as transgenocide. But really, I think what's getting missed in that article is first of all, you're just taking this very physical kind of approach to this with this very small amount of physical information and really ignoring all of the subtleties of what encompasses genocide. Right? Because it's not just the act of physically murdering a person. Right? It's very much the act of trying to erase
right. The erasure
of people from society. And that erasure does not just happen by killing people. That erasure happens through denying they exist.
That's right.
Censoring them out.
Yeah.
They don't want them to have lives and to have families. And that's genocide as well. That trying to erase a lifestyle, remove people from families, hide them, force them into hiding, and denying their existence. That is as much genocide as the physical murdering of somebody. And that's what I really feel that article just completely missed. Yes, you just look at these numbers and you look at the percentages and there's higher death rates here and higher murder rates here. But the difference is in these other different, murder rates that you're looking at, you do not have an entire group of people trying to erase the existence. And that's really the key there. It's not just about how many people got physically murdered by somebody. It's about the overall attempts to erase the existence of trans people in our society that constitutes trans genocide. And trans families, yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's really, thank you for bringing that up. We also have, our conservatives screaming in California about the new allowance of, Governor Newsom signed a bill where they're saying placing the state above the family, but it allows children as young as 12 to decide for themselves whether to leave the family home. That it permits minor children to seek mental health services without their parents' knowledge or consent and allows for the removal of children aged 12 and older from their parents' home without a court order. And I think this is something that's really important, talking about this, because I believe that children are their own autonomous beings, right? We're parents, we're required to keep them safe and protected and all of those things, but I'm not my child. Like, they have their own identity.
Exactly.
And, we have a crisis in this country with mental health services. There's lack of providers, there's lack of funding, there's lack. And we also have a generation of parents who are still emotionally stunted from our own generational traumas, and they do not value seeking mental health services. And so they are continuing to perpetuate the generational trauma that they went through instead of stopping it, versus parents like us where we're like, no.
Yeah.
This stops as much as we can with us. And you know what? Our kids will do it better than we did. Okay. And so, they need to be able to access mental health services.
Yes.
They need to have somebody that they can talk to, and they need access to it. Now, they're just trying to say that this completely takes parents out of the equation without considering the harm that these parents are doing to those children. And that's what always gets me about listening to some of these parents that come and speak at the Virginia Beach School Board, for example. And, you are causing so much. I cringe with some of these speakers to think that they have children at home and what those children are experiencing from their parents.
Yes.
And the abuse that they are likely experiencing at the hands of their parents.
Well, when they say things like, well, they shouldn't have to talk to a counselor. That
Right.
I don't want them to have access. That right
Yep.
there sends a red flag up.
Yep.
Why? What are you hiding? And what are you so worried about that your child is going to tell a counselor that you don't want them to have access to that?
That's generally...
Therapy is a good thing for everybody. You don't have to be in a
Normalize it.
mental health crisis for therapy to be
That's
good
right.
for you. Therapy is good for you every day to
Yes.
talk with
Whether you-
people,
yes.
work out your emotions. Nobody should ever be against
Exactly.
therapy.
Right. Well, the problem is that America is very much a property rights.
Well, and
and
that's
they
really,
treat our children like property.
that's
They're
really it.
property.
You look at, because I've said in my speeches, the only right I believe a parent really has is the right to responsibility. You are responsible
That's right.
for taking care of your child.
Yep.
You're responsible for making sure your child has what they need. That's the right that you have. And when you look at the argument for, the parental rights side, the parental rights are enshrined. It's the 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
And that argument, you look at the line that they go to in the 14th Amendment, right? No state may deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process. And that's why a parent has rights over their child, is their argument is that the child is property.
Yep. That is 100%.
And that's
Correct.
that's my hang up is look, I'm a parent. I love my children, and all of those things, but I don't own them.
That's correct.
They are human beings, and they have their own human rights that I don't get to take away just because I'm their parent. And that whole concept of nobody should be deprived of their property when it pertains to my kids is just it's just sickening to me. It's just disgusting to even think of your own child, much less any person, as property. That brings you all the way back to slavery. That's how that's how the concept and that's how people were able to wrap their minds around something like slavery being okay is by wrapping their minds around the idea that people could be property. And that is the same thought process that these people have.
And that's how we've been raising our children for generations and generations and generations. And I did not raise my children that way. Another thing that there's intersectionality here too, because you've religion, because in this article that, this organization Advocates for Faith and Freedom also observes that parental rights and obligations even have biblical roots. As our culture becomes increasingly devoid of God, it is more important than ever to ensure parents are responsible for caring, raising, and educating their children. Proverbs 22:6 instructs parents to train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And, and as someone who suffered from childhood abuse, I read the sentence that says it's more important than ever to ensure parents are responsible for caring, raising, and educating their children. And I say, that's the responsibility, but that's not reality.
Oh, and that's it. It is so kind of crazy to me, right? Because when we look at these situations playing out in real life, all right, we look at these situations in school, and they're just like, as we've gotten farther away from God, right? Things have gotten worse. But when you look at these situations in real life, like with the Pungo boys, right? That's our church group there at school, right? So in this situation in real life, it's the people in the church group that are bullying.
That's right.
That are belittling, that are othering, that are attacking people. It's the people not in the church group that are going around making it a point to treat everybody well, standing up for people, making sure everybody's okay. And so the evidence in society does not match up
That is
with
correct.
the statement in any way.
And they're standing behind those beliefs, saying it's okay. They're using that as almost a shield. Well, I'm a Christian. Last time I remember, Jesus loved everybody, and Jesus, like, that's what I thought that's what we teach our kids.
Your religion,
And forcing your religion on other people is a big issue too.
Right. And they believe that the legislation will split families apart and put children at risk. And I would beg to differ and say they're already at risk and in the hands of any parent who doesn't want their child to get mental health. They are already at risk because it's happening to them in their home. And that's why it's even more important. And it says, it's really interesting because in this article from Newsmax, shockingly, and this is what drives me nuts. It's that they don't even understand the irony, Newsmax using this. Novelist George Orwell observed that, quote, the further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those who speak it. Oh. And the irony that these right-wing media agencies and these journalists, I use in quotations, because it also says in this guy that wrote the article is a retired lawyer and has been a frequent contributor to Newsmax. He's also a former U.S. Merchant Marine officer and an enthusiastic Second Amendment supporter. Sorry, that's my Pungo voice act. I have a lot of accents. Y'all just need to understand this right now. I have all kinds of characters in my head, and they just come out, and I can't always, control it. So
enthusiastic Second Amendment. Does that mean
enthusiastic?
like a positive way to say he owns too many guns?
Right. Yes, pretty much. So, and it just the irony that they use these quotes, and it's like, bro, wait, what is happening? But it just goes to show you, like, how, for me, it's about fixed mindset and growth mindset people. Yes. And fixed mindset people are very easy to identify, right? Growth mindset people are people like us where we said, you know what? We don't know everything, and maybe our kids can teach us something about ourselves. Exactly. My kids are my greatest teachers. They will always be my greatest teachers because I acknowledge that I don't know everything. I certainly wish they would listen to me on some things that I'm like, no, I have experience with that. If you leave that sitting on the counter too long, you're going to get sick.
There's some things I do know.
There's some things I do know, for sure. Like I do. They've definitely been there. There's some things I do know, but...
Well, and it's not even the concept of my kids teaching me specific things as it is my kids causing me to ask myself certain questions that I would never have asked myself before. And what I learn about myself and how I grow in that process.
That's right. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep, so that's all I got for news. And I think we're ready to close.
Yeah, I think
we're ready to close out.
Wrap up.
It was really great having you guys as guests, and
I enjoyed
Mick, you're gonna have to come back.
I think we could have talked for another 4 hours for sure.
Probably. So
yeah, we definitely need to bring you back at some point. I need to hear the song. I need to find out what Jocelyn's did.
You need to come next time. I'm here for.
I really need. I kind of need to see the battle axe. Maybe I'll bring the sword.
Yeah, there you go.
And we can do a thing.
Go spar in the parking lot.
I am not going to get battle axed by a high schooler in front of anybody.
There'll be no visual proof. We'll just hear you.
Just hear me getting.
I'll bring the battle axe, my great sword, the shield. I'll bring it all.
Wow,
there's a lot of gear.
That sounds like a lot. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that, and thank you very much, Kim. I know that it's hard to get out there. It really is. There's a lot of things that I think we don't acknowledge even to ourselves very often. As parents, and especially as a trans youth yourself, Mick is just the constant stress, right?
Oh yeah, the constant stress and the constant worry.
The constant stress, the constant worry. That's right. Every day, my kid goes to school, and I hold my breath until I get home.
Exactly, and make sure they're home safe and they're okay, and that they wake up. And
that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like every day I take a deep breath.
Yep.
And I let it out when I finally get home and get to see my kid home safe.
Exactly.
And so, incredibly grateful.
Thank you.
for
We
you guys
appreciate you
taking the
having
time
us.
and
Thank
coming
you.
out.
And we appreciate I want to say I appreciate everything that you are doing for the community and speaking at the board meetings and being so outspoken. And, both of you actually were the ones who kind of seeing your speeches encouraged me to do it. Like, I can, and now apparently I have a fan club at the school. So,
Hey. Well, and I'll tell you, that's the primary goal of my speeches. I've had people ask me, "Oh, well, they still passed. Are you getting any movement? Or they're not listening to you?" 2 or 3 speeches, and I think I gave my 18th speech last night at the school board meetings.
Awesome. I have not.
But it was about.
I haven't even counted mine.
Yeah.
You have 18.
Well, only because I put them in. When I post them, I put them in the thing, and so it counts them for me.
It counts them for
That's
you.
the only reason I know is because when I look at it, I'm like, "Oh, that's number 18."
Well, I made it into Vicki Manning's new book, which I'm not going to promote on this podcast, but I did purchase it. But my May speech, she can write.
Yeah.
She can write. No, don't. She can write. It's awful, but
she doesn't write well.
But listen, this is recon. When you want to, you got to get into their head, so you got to read what they write. And but my May speech, she didn't name me so far. I haven't found my name, but it made it. I'm looking for you. I'm waiting to see who I can identify in the book talking about the parents.
That's funny. But no, that's the big reason.
Okay.
The big reason I continue to speak. The main motivation for my speeches, probably after the first couple, wasn't about the people up on the stage anymore. Those 11 people. It was about all of the students that were there speaking. That I have so much. I have so much.
Every time you go up to speak, the chat goes wild.
I have so much love and respect for you guys. You have been such. As a parent, to know that there's other kids like you out there for my kid to run into, couldn't tell you.
Yep.
Couldn't tell you how much that means to me.
That's awesome.
But knowing that other people were listening, knowing that there was people, and seeing people find the courage, find their voice, and add to that chorus, that has become the ultimate goal because that's where it is, right? No matter what those few people do, it's really going to be about what we do outside of that, the events that we do, coming together ourselves, motivating ourselves, creating that, that joy and that community, and just letting that light shine, is really
Trans joy defeats hate.
Joy defeats
yes.
hate.
Love that.
Trans joy defeats hate, and giving that power, and just standing up for somebody. Just standing up for somebody and letting them see that. I know what it's like to have somebody fight for you, to want somebody to fight for you, win or lose. I know how that makes you feel worth it.
Yes.
And every time I get up there, it's an opportunity for me to make somebody who needs it know that they're worth it.
That's right.
And that's the goal. Those people, we'll change those policies, whether we vote them out, whether it comes through a lawsuit, whether we get rid of the governor and get a new governor that gives us better policies. The policies will change. As Benjamin Franklin said, energy and determination will conquer all things.
But we're getting a new governor. Mark my words, in 2025, we are getting a new governor.
But the big part of all of that is letting all of those people that have been told they're not know that they are worth fighting for every second.
That's right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming, and I think we will end it right here.
Thank you for joining us on Talking Transparency. We will see you on the next show. And remember, trans joy beats hate every time.
Talking Transparency is brought to you by the Kalos Coalition. Our theme music is by SKS. If you enjoyed the show, please check us out on all the socials at talkingtransparency.com or check out our linktree at Talking Trans. Visit our website at talkingtransparency.com and please consider supporting us at patreon.com/talkingtransparency.